how do you feel about this open border system that we have implemented recently in our country? Would you say that anyone can get through, and can this happen here, Richard?
Okay, well, look, there's a few layers to this. Okay, so number one, essentially anybody who comes across the border is maybe so-called processed for a few minutes and then released, essentially. And there are roughly 80,000 terrorists people from nations which are not really that friendly with the United States, from communist China, from several Middle Eastern countries, Arab countries, Libya, Iraq, Iran. Of course, there are many coming from Venezuela. Now, I don't doubt that there are a lot of people coming into our country who want a better life. There is a percentage of people who've already come into our country over the past 2 years under President Biden, who are known to be terrorists, and that they are released. It's unbelievable what's happened.
So what I've seen,
Yeah.
and I hope that more Americans will see, is that I'm shocked in some cities like Minnesota, where you have Palestinian support and protesting for the Hamas side.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Black Lives Matter of Chicago actually put a meme showing a Hamas fighter on a paraglider with a weapon, and they had this meme or logo on their they took it down, okay, but they were actually supporting not just the cause of the Palestinians. Look, I do believe the Palestinians are victims. They are victims, but they're not victims of Israel. They're victims of Hamas. They're victims of a corrupt leadership, the leadership of the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank. Mahmoud Abbas, he is very wealthy, and they get huge amounts of support from the European Union and from Norway, and also from the United States. And where is that money going? It's not going to help their people that much. A lot of it is going, certainly in the Gaza Strip, they are shooting rockets, which apparently are coming from Iran, and they're shooting those rockets into Israel. So Israel's had the Iron Dome to protect its urban areas. They usually let the rockets fall in the rural areas, but they have a leadership that has chosen. But of course, Hamas was elected. There was an election in the Gaza Strip. The people living there, they voted for Hamas, and I would say at least 2/3 of them agree with what Hamas is doing.
So there's been propaganda probably starting early in childhood, where the enemy is the Jew.
Yeah, exactly. I was reading about this 5th grade textbook published by the Palestinian Authority, and the textbook is for 5th graders, and it's talking about heroes, Muslim heroes, and they were all fighters. She threw a grenade into the bus, and the 25 adults and 12 children, they were killed.
That's disgusting, because children minds are so they sponge all this information, and it creates their characters as they grow up. One of the things that I found very interesting in your interviews, Richard, going back to that, is the innocence of our 19 and 20-year-olds, because they've never dealt with this type of ugliness or hatred.
We in America, we've been blessed. We have not had a war inside the United States for, 150 years, right? Since the Civil War. So we've had wars that we've been involved with overseas, right? In Europe, or with Japan, or of course in the Middle East. But these are wars 1,000 or 2,000 miles away from where we live, right? So we may see something on the TV news or on the internet, but basically we've been blessed that we most of the time we feel free to walk down the street. We don't think someone's going to attack us. We may have disagreements or debates with people, but we think, well, we agree there's free speech or freedom of religion. So even if you have a different worldview than I do or faith, that's okay. We can we can coexist. But it's not that way in many countries around the world. It is not that way. Jews in Europe, in Germany, for instance, women in Germany used to be very free to go out at night with their girlfriends or boyfriends and have a good time. In many cities in Germany, you can't do that, because if a woman goes out and she's by herself and she doesn't have her head scarf on and she doesn't have a male relative, a male with her, she will be raped. She will be raped and she will be attacked. And the thinking of they've let a lot of immigrants in from North Africa and the Middle East. The value system of these young Muslim men is, she's not Muslim, she's not dressed the way a Muslim woman would dress, and she's not with a male relative, therefore we can rape her.
She's asking for it.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of and also you look at in Sweden, there are other European countries where it is the same thing is going on, and there are parts of cities in Sweden, in France, in Germany, where the police don't go. They're called no-go zones. If you're a Jew living in France or Germany, there have been some murders of Jewish people there. There is a lot of anti-Semitism in Europe and even here in the United States, that you see all these demonstrations. In Minneapolis, for instance, there was a huge pro-Palestine demonstration, and they actually blocked off a pretty major highway. So the cars are backed up, they're all stopped, and there was this one man in his 70s, and they're beating and kicking his car. He's terrified, and he's able to somehow drive away, and then he goes down to the next intersection, which is also blocked, and then fortunately he was able to make a U-turn, and then he was able to escape. But this is the kind of, I would say, fear that actually can come even in the United States.
It seems like yesterday, a couple of years ago, when we remember Netanyahu and Trump, and President Trump at that time was very open about the friendship that he had and the support for Israel. I don't remember all this going on a few years back. Do you think that this would have happened if President Trump was still in office?
Hell no. Okay. I think it's pretty clear that probably the war in Ukraine would not have happened. This attack on Israel would not have happened. We released the embargo on Iranian sale of oil and gas has not been enforced by the Biden administration. They have tens of billions of dollars, and they're using a lot of their money to support terrorists like Hamas. So yeah, the answer is no. It would not. But the reality is, we do have Biden, and he did give a pretty good speech. I think a week ago he gave a speech that said that what Hamas is doing is evil and wrong. His language sounded good, but I don't think anyone really believes that he's going to back up Israel, or there's definitely a limit to what America is willing to do. And I think within the Democrat Party, there are a lot of Jews who are Democrats, and I think a lot of them are really struggling right now because they see themselves as leftists, loyal Democrats, and they see within their own political party there are people who are unwilling to even say that mass murder of more than 1,000 civilians, men, women, and children, is wrong. And I mean, that's pretty, to wrap your head around that, I think is, I mean, how do they deal with that?
So let me ask you, Richard, are there leaders right now in Hamas who are exposing and saying exactly what they mean, which is to kill the Jews?
Yeah, actually, let's play, I have a 2-minute clip, video of Hamas leaders paralyze them. Oh Allah, enable us to get to the necks of the Jews. The day of your slaughter, extermination, and annihilation is near. Until not a single Jew or Zionist is left on the face of the earth. Our doctrine in fighting you, the Jews, is that we will totally exterminate you. We will not leave a single one of you alive. The Quran says, kill them wherever you may find them. We will fight them wherever we can. The moment will come when their property will be destroyed and their sons annihilated. Oh Allah, destroy the Jews and their supporters. Allah, destroy the Americans and their supporters. Allah, count them one by one, kill them all, without leaving a single one. Okay.
That's outrageous.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, we need to wrap our head around the fact that there are people who think that by killing Jews, they're going to heaven, basically. And that's their thinking. And I know the leaders of Iran have spoken about bringing the final judgment to the world, so to bring about the return of the 12th Imam, I believe. They see this in apocalyptic terms, and they see Israel as the little Satan and America as the big Satan. So right now, Israel is being attacked, and in my opinion, there are no good choices that they have. They have to do something, but if they do what is needed to remove the Hamas leaders, it means a lot of people are going to die in Gaza.
I don't understand why you don't have the United States not just sending a couple of ships, or the United Nations coming in and saying we will prevent you from surviving, of living, of eating if you continue killing. Where is the pressure from the world?
Okay, well, President Biden just sent $100 million to the Palestinian Authority and to Gaza, humanitarian aid. It's almost like some people say that you're rewarding them after they just were complicit in mass murder.
Is everybody hearing what I'm hearing? This is ridiculous. This is completely backwards. How are we supposed to, by strength, enforce fear and civility and stop this madness when you have someone who's giving away money to the enemy? I mean, how is that supposed to bring peace?
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess they would argue that the citizens of Gaza who presumably were not involved, they don't have the water or food, or the Israelis. What the Israelis have said is, if you release the hostages that you took, then we will allow water and food to go. Actually, they were forced to let the aid to go in from Egypt. It's interesting that Egypt and Jordan, none of those other countries, Arab Muslim countries in the area, are willing to take any Palestinian refugees. Not even one. I mean, Egypt is letting some food and water go into Gaza, but they don't want any Palestinians in their nation.
Right. Well, that speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of political games going on, and as I said before, I do believe the Palestinians are victims, but not of Israel. I think if Israel could be assured that by giving up more land, actually they gave up Gaza in 2005, and instead of Gaza being developed and prosperous, they turned it into a death camp, basically, to attack Israel. I think if Israel were assured that the West Bank, which goes all the way up to Jordan River, would not be used to have more attacks on Israel, then there'd be many Israelis who would support that. But my understanding is that there was a peace agreement when Bill Clinton was president. They had an agreement where Israel was offering to give 95% of the land in the West Bank to the Palestinians, and Yasser Arafat refused, said no. And then the next day they launched another intifada, which means suicide attacks on Jews in Israel. So Israel's been put in the position of wanting to find peace. This is what I believe: wanting to find peace, but having no responsible partner to make peace with. And the sad thing is, as you were pointing out before, is we're next. Look, Israel is the little Satan. This is the perspective of the Ayatollah in Iran, but they say that America is the big Satan, and I believe that it's coming here too.
So, Richard, how would we educate Americans, the average American, to understand what's going on and to be possibly prepared for what may happen, or at least get involved and say, you know what, let's go to our legislators. What are you doing about this?
Honestly speaking, the government should be controlling our southern border. They're not doing it. I think it's not an accident. I don't think it's just incompetence. I think there's an intention to weaken our country. So I really, at this point, unless we have a new president, God willing, we'll have a fair election next year. We'll see what happens. I know you're very involved with election integrity, right? And you're getting involved in poll watching and poll working and so on, and to try to make it more fair, even though I believe there is corruption here in Pennsylvania with our Supreme Court, right? So, and there is an election coming up, right? There is someone running for, is that Patricia McCullough? Who is the? So
we have, we're the only state right now in the country that's having a Supreme Court, Commonwealth, and also Superior Court judges who are running right now, and we need a conservative voice because Pennsylvania right now, our courts are outmaneuvered, they're out of balance with more of a leftist ideology, which has made this state more of a purple state. But it's not even a matter of Republican or Democrat. Where people are missing the point is that when an issue arises like election fraud or accusation of election fraud, that there's supposed to be a process in the legal system. And what we saw from the election from 2020 and from 2022 is that there was no system in place because it was shut down. There was no evaluation, there was no oversight. Instead, it was shut down because you don't have a judicial system in place to even observe and take a look and take on a case. This is where it becomes dangerous. And if anybody's watching who you live in Pennsylvania, make sure to get out the vote. On November 8th, vote down Republican, right down the line, Republican judgmentships. Get your friends, get your families out there. Otherwise, we will not have a system.
Vote down.
Vote all the way down Republican. You have to
okay.
for our judicial system.
Yeah, I know there were some candidates like Josh Prince that we wanted to nominate for the Commonwealth Court, and McCullough, but they did not win. So there are some good Republicans. I know we have a problem with the Uniparty that we can talk about that another show. But there's another issue too. I don't want to be in a position where if there is a terrorist attack in my community, my neighborhood, that I cannot defend my family. And honestly speaking, if you look, for many decades in my life, I never touched a gun. When I was growing up, I never saw a gun, and never in my home, for sure. I mean, I saw them in the movies. Okay, I watched a lot of movies where the people were fighting for freedom and for various causes. But I never thought. I always thought, well, the police and the military, they're professional. They can protect us. I no longer think that way, and my wife and I, we do practice, and we're not that bad, actually. Okay.
That's wonderful, because that's our definition of date night for my husband and myself. We'll go to a range and we'll keep improving and working, and it's fun to be able to learn how to defend yourself with the ones you love. You pray that you never have to.
Right, exactly.
But if trouble comes your way, damn straight, you're going to protect your children, you'll protect the ones you love.
Absolutely. I mean, and you may or may not be successful, but at least you didn't let people slaughter you like a farm animal. And the other issue, of course, is that there are terrorist attacks. Look, if there truly are several thousand, maybe tens of thousands, some people say more, terrorists who are already in our country from China and from the Middle East and various places, and they're already here in our country, they already have their targets picked. And I believe our electrical grid is very undefended. And I believe they could shut down electricity in most parts of the country. So we would have no electricity, probably no internet, no way to communicate. Water and food. In my case, we get water out of a pump, an electric pump. So I do have a generator, which would perhaps
Buy
me time, but most people don't. Most people don't have, most people, they be out of water. I believe you can last for about 3 days without water. After 3 days, people start to die.
So pretty much the cities would be in big trouble, because that's where you have your multitude of population that rely on infrastructure in place, deliveries of the to the supermarkets and so forth, and now all that would stop. So
Right.
this would be mass catastrophe for our civilization as we know it.
Yeah, I mean, all the food in your refrigerator would go bad within a few days, right? And so I do urge our audience to, store food in your basement and water and basic necessities. I mean, it's not a total solution, but at least you'll have something for your family.
Right.
On that positive note, okay. So
Learn to defend oneself and be prepared. Do some prepping for you and your family.
yeah, that's right. And hopefully elect better representatives who actually want to defend our country. And, a weak America is not only bad for us, a weak America is bad for the entire world.
As we're seeing and living
Okay?
today.
Absolutely, because there are many countries who, if America goes down, look, we know, Anastasia, you and I both know, America is not perfect. We know that. But nevertheless, America is a country that has the ideals of freedom of speech, of religion, of assembly, the right to defend yourself. These are basic freedoms. And we are an example to the rest. We have been an example to the rest of the world. And for many decades, we did provide some type of, just the fact that people are able to have ships going all over the world with products and so on, that created a lot of prosperity. More than 1 billion people were lifted out of poverty under the system after World War II. and free enterprise, all those good things.
That's right.
But if America becomes weak and divided, or God forbid, attacked from within, the whole world is going to suffer for a long time.
Well, thank you, Richard. This has been really very interesting, and I hope that our audience will take this seriously and continue to do your research, keep on top of the issues, make sure your elected officials that you vote for are people who support the Constitution and the freedoms that we're accustomed to here in America. And let's pray for Israel, and when the time comes, we need real resolution by real leadership.
That's right. And we have to hold the line.
Yes.
Hold the line.